Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to introduce Rob. He's a friend.
Rob ha estado muchas veces
Rob has been in Argentina several times. 9 years ago, he was at the Aapresid Congress in Rosario. That was in 2015. I remember he interviewed me at that time. Let me tell you, who is Rob? He's a distinguished agrologist, businessman, and consultant with over 40 years of experience in agriculture. In 2021, he was recognized as one of the 50 leaders of agriculture, the most influential ones in Canada, and one of the 10 main agricultural mentors in Canada. He is the founder and executive director of AGvisorPRO, a global platform of mobile connectivity for agriculture, and also AGvisorPRO.ai, a solution that uses AI in the construction sectors and in agricultural equipment. So we're going to join his approach to agriculture.
Go ahead.
Muchas gracias, Pedro. Buenos días. Me llamo Roberto Saik, prAGmática. The first thing I have to say is congratulations to Argentina for beating Canada and winning the Copa Cup. Congratulations. But we have a secret weapon. Next time, Canada will win. This is where I come from in Alberta, Canada. It's 600 kilometers to the United States border. It's 800 kilometers north, and it's 1,500 kilometers across. 53.4 million hectares in what is known as the prairies. In 2018, I sold my company, Aapresid, to Trimble, and in 2020, I was CEO of a robotics company we sold to Raven. I've written 2 books on agriculture, and I'm currently CEO of AGvisorPRO, a mobile application, and VisorPRO, an AI application for the farm equipment sector. AGvisorPRO is about mobile connectivity, iOS and Android, and so please download it and join us on AGvisorPRO, which is a global connectivity platform. And later on this week with my friend Agustin Bianchini, we'll be calling on some of the Argentinian farm equipment dealerships to talk about our AI solution called VisorPRO or VI. When I was in Argentina last time, I had the opportunity of visiting many of the areas in Argentina with my friend Agustin, and here I am with Jorge Ramonoli, and of course, Agustin's partner Santiago. And Argentina is much like Canada. It is a large, large country with broadacre agriculture and challenges facing us of weather and, of course, markets. And so I would like to share with you some of my observations globally and my observations of Argentina. Last time I was at Aapresid was on the big stage in Rosario, and I was speaking about GMOs and the importance of GMOs, and I discovered that there was a problem in Argentina with many people's perception of GMOs, especially the backlash against Monsanto. So I traveled to Malvinas, and I interviewed some of the people affected by the protesters in this situation. These were 2 ladies whose families were persecuted by the protesters, car windows smashed, graffiti put on their houses, etc. The protesters were allegedly alleging that glyphosate was responsible for cancer in Argentina. So we went to the Cancer Institute in Cordoba, and we visited with one of the heads of cancer in Argentina. And this doctor found no correlation between the utilization of herbicides and cancer in Argentina. However, this didn't stop the protesters from doing what they do. So at the bottom of underneath, you have to go investigate. This resulted in us starting a new company called No Ideas Media, and we produced many videos about agriculture that can be accessed on our No Ideas Media platform. I also work with farmers called the Power Farm Group in Canada, and these 20 farmers encompass 132,000 hectares of land in Canada. So farmers are being asked to do 4 things simultaneously. Farmers are being asked to produce, farmers are being asked to reduce their environmental footprint, they're being asked to protect the environment, and farmers are being asked to restore the environment, all at the same time. This is quite a thing. How are you, as farmers, young people, how are you going to do all of this at the same time? This can only be achieved through one thing, and that is called sustainable intensification. To maximize our inputs, to increase our outputs on a given footprint of land globally. The next 30 years could be the most challenging years in agriculture, not because we can't produce the food, but because of public policy. In particular, our challenge in agriculture is that consumers and most politicians are disconnected from the realities of agriculture. This conference is in Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is a metropolitan area of 2.3 billion people. How many people in this metropolitan city of Buenos Aires really understand agriculture? That's your challenge. In 2015, I had an opportunity to address the United Nations and the FAO. For 3 days, I listened while speaker after speaker vilified modern agriculture. Agriculture should not be based on ideology. Agriculture policy must be outcome-based, must not be ideological-based, and there's too much of that happening. No matter what food religion you believe in, whether you're a vegan, a vegetarian, a pescatarian, whether you're an organic farmer, a conventional farmer, whether you're a regenerative farmer, an agroecological farmer, we must all agree on one thing, and that is that for as long as we have human beings on the planet, agriculture must be infinitely sustainable. Infinitely sustainable. So what does sustainability mean? You all know that sustainability means healthy soil. Yes. You all know that water use efficiency is important. Yes. Now we enter the world of greenhouse gas balance. That's important. Yes. But what many people don't understand is that without viability, the ability of farmers to be profitable, there is no sustainability. And in Portugal, when I was speaking in Portugal, I learned one thing that breaks down the barriers between urban people and rural people, and that is the word love. Farmers love their families. Farmers love their livestock. Farmers love their land. And when we start talking about the emotion of love with city people, we break down the barriers. And we can talk about shared values. And that's what this talk is about, is helping people to understand the technology that farmers are using and getting people to agree that yes, that is pragmatic. That's a good thing. In 2019, I published the book Food 5.0, How We Feed the Future. This was 2019. The first 3 lines of the book are, this morning when you woke up, did you worry about a plague? Second line of the book, did you worry about war? And the third line of the book, did you worry about famine? This was 2019. This was before COVID. This was before Russia invaded Ukraine. And this was before the famines that we're seeing in the world. This is what I was thinking about. COVID accelerated the importance of agriculture in the minds of rural people. And COVID accelerated the digitization of agriculture in ways that we had previously never seen. The war in Ukraine has disrupted supply chain, and the war in Ukraine has brought to the attention of the consumer how important agriculture is And the consumer is starting to realize that maybe ideology by itself is not good enough to feed the planet. And this was taken last fall in Kenya. This is a woman with her family, 3 children, and this is where she lives. And so poverty is not out of the equation on the global stage. In Food 5.0, and a lot of people talk about four iterations of agriculture, I talk about 5. 5 eras of agriculture include the era of muscle, the era of the machine, the era of chemistry, the era of biotechnology, herbicide tolerant and BT tolerant crops such as corn and soybean and canola. And then agriculture 5.0, which we are in today, which is convergence. This is where technologies are all coming together in the cab of a tractor. This is where technologies can be leveraged in a pragmatic fashion to help agriculture feed the world in a logical and a pragmatic and a sustainable manner. This is important. In the EU, in the European Union, they have something called the precautionary principle. It says that you can never bring something to the market unless you can prove that it's safe. That is a scientific impossibility. You can never prove something is safe because tomorrow it might not be. As long as policy is based on the precautionary principle, there will be no technology coming into agriculture because you can never prove something is safe. And the EU is talking about a 50% reduction in pesticides. That's good. 50% reduction in nutrient losses. That's good. 50% reduction in antimicrobials, that's good. And 25% of the land will be dictated as organic farming. I don't know if that's good. The pesticide impact globally needs to be addressed from a pragmatic standpoint. You can see here that Argentina and Canada have very low levels of active ingredient per hectare, whereas the European Union countries are all much higher indeed. How come nobody talks about that? This is pragmatism. People need to understand this. In my opinion, we cannot increase yields, reduce fertilizer and pesticide use, decrease greenhouse gases, have crops be more climate resilient, and make food more nutritious without employing genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is very important for the future of agriculture. This is pragmatism. Dr. Rachel Chan, who you should know, is an Argentinian scientist working at uncovering the HB4 drought-tolerant gene here in Argentina that resulted in the company BioCities and allows farmers to grow wheat under adverse conditions. This is pragmatism. This is a good idea. The adaptation of crops to climate change is important for the success of farmers, and BH4 is part of that success. Argentina has amongst the highest level of immunization for COVID. That immunization is messenger RNA technology. And yet we have all kinds of people who say messenger RNA technology is no good for agriculture. Good enough for your body, but not good enough for agriculture. That's preposterous. It's not pragmatic. When ideology leads the way, you end up with policy that results in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a disaster, all perpetuated by the Colombo Declaration, which was going to be a reduction in nitrogen, the 2021 chemical-free declaration, and the COPS 21 declaration that Sri Lanka was going to be a 100% organic country, and the 2022 collapse of the economy. This is what you get when agriculture is not connected to pragmatism. This is when ideology rules the day. I gave a talk about genetic engineering and GMOs called Will Agriculture Be Allowed to Feed 9 Billion People? If you'd like to see it, please go there. Gustavo Igorás said in Argentina that without GMO feed from Argentina and Brazil, the EU livestock industry would collapse. Pedro, you agree with that? 100%, right? Nobody understands that. Will farm to fork in the EU be like watching Sri Lanka in slow motion? That's my question. Yet the consumer has demands for choice, convenience, customized taste, cheap food, transparency, and the consumer will continue to demand. And we as farmers need to deliver on these demands. It's important. Food as medicine will continue to rise in discussion. The cost of sequencing your genome will continue to plummet. Most of you will have your genome sequenced by the time you're older. Food as medicine, and how will GLP drugs such as Ozempic, how will these drugs impact the diets of people? Lower sugar, lower fructose, lower potato chips, higher whole foods, higher vegetable diets. How will that affect agriculture? And this is going to be a $105 billion industry by 2029. Farming has its challenges, especially when we face climate. Things like hail, things like drought, things like flooding, weather and diseases, and insects, and snow when you're trying to harvest in Canada. Sometimes Mother Nature isn't motherly at all. We need to embrace technology faster to face the pressures. Take zero-till, for example. This is one of the fathers of zero-till from Argentina, Roberto Peretti, a good friend of mine. Did you know 1% of organic matter is the equivalent to 20 metric tons of carbon dioxide sequestered in the soil? Agriculture is part of the solution. Argentina has led the way with respect to zero tillage. Congratulations. This is Argentina, zero-till corn and soybean in Argentina. This is prAGmatic. These are zero-till peas, canola, and wheat in Canada. This is prAGmatic. These are olives on rolling topography in Spain. Is this prAGmatic? This is a wheat field in Tuscany, in Italy, being eroded with water. Is this prAGmatic? And yet, the EU will preach to us. They will preach to Argentina. They will preach to Canada when this is what they're doing. Is this prAGmatic? No, it is not. This is Uguguio in a field in Argentina, and on the left-hand side is fertilization, 10% more than crop removal. On the right-hand side is fertilization at crop removal. Is that policy at crop removal prAGmatic? No, it is not. We have to use agronomy. Regenerative agriculture is to make the soil better over time. What's more sustainable? Cultivation 3 or 4 times, or a pop count of herbicide over the size of a soccer or football field? What's more prAGmatic? Will the consumer pay for a sustainability index? Is there a way for farmers to leverage what the society wants to balance out nitrous oxide, increase our efficiency through farmers getting paid for offsets? Pedro, should we be doing that? We should be doing this. Yes. Does this align with the consumer? Will the consumer pay for it? Is it prAGmatic? Yes, it is, if we can help the consumer understand that our values are the same as their values. We will see more biologicals. This is us in Almeria, Spain, at a company called Kimitec that was isolating molecules from plants to determine whether those plants had fungicidal, insecticidal properties. So the extracts were being screened out, and then they ran them through microbial and DNA analysis. And the question is, could the next glyphosate be a biological glyphosate? And what will the NGOs and the environmentalists say when we have a biological glyphosate? What happens to their argument then? This is on the horizon. Sensor technology on your farms to find out what's going on the farm, and waking up in the morning and having your technology tell you where to go. Where should I go? What fields are in trouble? What parts of the field are in trouble? Now, we have a major problem in agriculture in North America, and I believe the problem exists in Argentina. I know it does in Brazil, and that is connectivity. You cannot have a smart farm with stupid internet. You can't have a smart farm with stupid internet. Soil sensing devices to help us understand more about what the nutritional capacity and the organic matter is in soils. Could you imagine a spectroscopy unit in real time learning what's in the soil and then using AI and algorithms to converge that technology to make the recommendation? AI and algorithms will become, you people are young people, I keep pointing to you. AI and algorithms are part of your life already and will only increase in importance in your farming career. What will be the impact of AI in agriculture? I asked AI to produce an image for me of Old MacDonald has a farm, AIAIO, and this is what I got. Old MacDonald has a farm, AIAIO. We have had AI in agriculture for a long time, but it's been in the livestock sector and has been known as artificial insemination. Now we have a different kind of AI in agriculture. I hope this humor was good for you. I'm not sure. When a decision is made on a farm, there's two parts to the decision. One is prediction, and this is where AI can help. The gathering of information and doing a prediction about what might happen. That is AI. The second part of a decision is something called judgment. And this is something that farmers do every day, is make judgment based on information. I think AI in agriculture stands for augmented intelligence and not artificial. And I think that AI connected to sensors and remote sensing devices will augment our ability to make decisions on the farm. Whether that is increasing in precision agriculture farming, automation such as robotics, AI will play a role in how we leverage massive sets of data to do things more efficiently. I was CEO of this company. This company was called DOT. We sold this company to Raven, which was acquired by Case New Holland. This is a 100% autonomous robot. It is 10 meters in length, and it is seating all by itself. So all of the path planning, all of the mechanisms, all of the sensing devices are on the robot. This is a robot that has been programmed to farm by itself, but it's a specialized platform. Last week in Alberta, I was observing this brand new technology called iBox, where you could put this technology on your existing tractor, turning your tractor into an autonomous device using old tractor technology. This is fantastic technology. Now, how big will precision agriculture be? Goldman Sachs says that precision agriculture will be a $265 billion industry. Who will precision agriculture steal that industry from? Precision agriculture will steal $60 billion from fertilizer, less fertilizer. Precision agriculture will steal $62 billion from chemical, less chemical. $11 billion from seed, less diesel fuel, less labor, increased yield. This is the promise we have of integrating technology on the farm, and it's pragmatic because it aligns with the consumer. How many farmers in the audience want to spend more money on fertilizer? Put up your hands. More money on, no. How many farmers want to spray more pesticide? Put up more pesticide. No hands go up. These are aligned with what the consumer wants. The question will be, how much of the pie will digital steal? How much of the pie will be taken by digital technology? I argue it will be significant. Looking into the future, we can see how we could grow healthy, safe, abundant, hopefully profitable food in an environmentally sustainable manner. As I stare into the future, I believe that is possible. We need to tell our story. We're doing our part with No Ideas Media and Pedro, Crazy About Farming, a new TV show coming nationally in Argentina. Congratulations, Pedro. That'll be fantastic. This is a crop of hairy vetch, a cover crop on Jorge Ramoli's field. I was so impressed with this. It leads me to be optimistic about the future of agriculture. We need to be pragmatic about how we integrate technology into agriculture. I believe that those advancements will make agriculture more, not less sustainable, if not infinitely sustainable, which is what we want. It will lead to a continued abundance for humanity and for farmers, but, and this is a big but, we must advocate for agriculture. I don't know if there are any city people in this room. I don't know if there are any urban media people in this room. Agriculture is very good at preaching to ourselves, but we have to, you young people, need to leverage what you're learning at this conference externally. You need to share this with your city cousins, because those city cousins vote for politicians, and politicians that make policy based on ideology is a dangerous thing for farmers and a dangerous thing for society. In conclusion, I want to thank Aapresid for having me back again, and maybe in 10 years I'll come back again with more ideas. I would like you to consider downloading AGvisorPRO off of the app that's here. You've got some great communication tools in Argentina. I would like you to add that one. We have people from all over the world, Australia, Indonesia, South Africa on the platform. Pedro, in conclusion, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that we need to talk about love when it comes to agriculture. It is no good to argue with your city cousins about facts. They don't care about facts, but they do care that the fact is farmers love their land. So I will conclude with that, Pedro.
Thank you very much. Please join me. We have some minutes. Si alguien quiere hacer una pregunta, escanea el QR y me llega la pregunta.
If someone wants to ask a question, they scan the QR code and I will get it in my phone.
Which will be the key drivers? You speak about love, you speak about shared values. Can you explain us how can we address this issue of speaking to the city people?
Pedro, I think there's two things. One, COVID did something to society. And COVID probably did more for society to realize how important agriculture is than anything else. When the grocery shelves were empty, the consumer didn't care if it was organic or non-GMO. The consumer just wanted some food. The second thing that's happening is I believe we are seeing more and more attention paid to food as nutrition rather than just calories. And as food is viewed as nutrition or as food as medicine, maybe, just maybe, the consumer will pay more money for it. And if we could layer on top, Pedro, if we could layer on top documentation that this loaf of bread was grown more sustainably than this loaf of bread, would the consumer pay more pesos for this loaf of bread? That's my thinking.
But we need to tell the story.
We need to tell the story.
Definitely.
So I think that your TV show is going to be a great success. No, it's very important. Crazy about farming.
We'll see.
Yep.
Locos por el campo. Vamos a volver.
It's called Crazy About the Farm. Hablas.
Convergence, yes?
What is converging?
Okay, I'll give you an example. Most of these young people don't know this, but there was a time when tractors, you had to drive them. You remember that? You had to drive a tractor. Today, GPS is integrated in that tractor. But increasingly, the computers, the GPS, the remote sensing, the ability of the tractor to send signals to the manufacturer that a bearing or there's a part or the tractor is overheating, those remote sensing, that's all happening without you thinking about it. That's what I mean by convergence. What is happening on the farm that is automatically happening that you don't think about anymore? GPS, you don't think about that anymore. Sectional shutoff, turn compensation. Once you have that technology, turn compensation, sectional shutoff, GPS, all of a sudden your inputs are going down by 5-7% and you're not thinking about it. That's convergence.
Very good. You also speak about connectivity. We have a huge problem here in Argentina with connectivity. Now we have Starlink,
Yes.
but it's just a dot there. We need to have connectivity in all our fields. How do you address this in Canada, a big, big country?
I think the issue of connectivity is a major issue for agriculture. Yes, Starlink is coming into Brazil and Argentina. That's good. But this is one of the things, Pedro, that should be brought to the attention of politicians. I don't think there's any politician out there that would disagree that roads and bridges are fundamental, foundational infrastructure, railway, foundational infrastructure, internet access, foundational infrastructure. We cannot build agriculture, we cannot leverage the technology that we have today, let alone tomorrow, without this foundational infrastructure being in position. And correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the government of Argentina derive a significant portion of its revenue from agriculture? I think it does.
Huge.
So again, this is where, could you imagine city people being here without their smartphones? They would vibrate. They would vibrate. Can you imagine being on a farm trying to run your equipment without a smartphone? You don't vibrate, you just throw it down, you know, your frustration, yeah.
So we need to speak to politicians.
We have to speak to, these young people have to speak to politicians. They don't listen to you and me.
No, of course.
No.
Si hay alguna pregunta del público, aprovechenlo.
If there is any question from the audience, please do take advantage of it. Rob is here for this.
Maybe a politician will listen to a Canadian.
Tal vez.
I'm from the city. I'm not from the agricultural
Perfect.
world.
Thank you.
Actually, I've worked 20 years for marketing at Unilever. So I'm the person that doesn't know anything about what you're talking about. And I found very coherent what you propose. The only point where I tend to struggle, or where I think that people who are on the extreme, the other extreme position would question, is GMOs. Because in all the convergence of the different elements you mentioned, GMOs are a must. And I think that's where the question mark stands about how GMOs impact on human beings.
Thank you very much for your question. The question was around GMOs and how urban people perceive GMOs. I think we did a very terrible job in agriculture with respect to GMOs. I think it was the worst public relation exercise we've ever done in agriculture. So I'm sorry about that. However, the technology does not stay still. And if I ask you what a GMO is, you may have a hard time describing that. But the technology is moving very rapidly to something called gene editing, for example, which is the non-introduction of any other genetics into a plant. So, for example, when you eat an apple right now, when you bite into an apple and you leave it on the counter, that apple will turn brown through oxidization. There's a company in Canada called Arctic Apples that has switched off a couple of genes in the apple so that when you bite the apple or slice the apple, it does not oxidize rapidly. It stays white a longer period of time. This is an example of where the technology is going. Again, I would also suggest that many people took a vaccination against COVID. Some people 2 vaccinations, some 3. That same technology is genetic engineering that can be utilized in agriculture. And if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for agriculture. I think those are the places we need to go.
Can we tell her the insulin story?
Oh, the insulin story is fantastic. So if you know of anybody who is diabetic, that's a GMO. Anybody who's taking insulin is taking a GMO drug into their body, because formerly we had to get insulin by crushing the pancreases of dead calves. So they would take dead cows, crush the pancreases, and extract insulin. And now we use insulin that's clean and precise because it's a GMO. Great, great point.
Escherichia coli.
What's that?
Escherichia coli that was engineered to deliver insulin, GMO technology.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And that's in the body that every diabetic people around the world just put insulin coming from a GMO organism.
So that's an interesting point. If somebody is against GMOs, I would say, are you against diabetics? And if somebody said they're against GMOs, are you against hemophiliacs? Because the control of hemophilia is also a genetically engineered drug. So these are some of the things that are cool.
Rob, I think that GMO is like any other technology. You can do great things.
Yep.
Or you can do bad things.
However, in terms of GMO, it's the most studied plant breeding process on the planet Earth, and no one, not one single health organization in the world has ever attributed a health problem to a genetically engineered crop. Not one. Not one.
Thank you very much for the question.
That's a great question.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Me pasaron una acá en el... I have one here in the phone, I think. No me llegó. Te paso el micrófono.
All right.
Hay que animarse.
Gracias.
Thank you. I had asked in English, but I will now say it in Spanish.
Nobody wants to hear, as people is not interested in this lifestyle, and they only listen to social media influencers with no pragmatic ideas.
That's a very good question. You have city cousins. You are on social media, I presume. In agriculture, we are reluctant to speak up. However, it just takes one person to stand up and watch a discussion going on, and one person, you, to say, no, I think you're wrong. And it stops the discussion. When everybody agrees, GMO bad, yes, GMO bad, this, that, Monsanto, evil, GMO bad, and one person says, no, I think you're wrong, you stop the conversation. And very often, that stopping of conversation gets you the attention where you can share what you need to know. My advice to you is again, This comes from years of experience, but rather than shouting out with facts, you share your love. You share your love. I love my cattle. I love my land. My family has been here for 4 generations. Why would we do anything to our land that would hurt our land? We want the same thing you want. We want to grow healthy food that we eat. We want healthy soils that will go to the next generation. We want to spend less money on inputs. How is that disconnected from you? And so that's what I've learned how to do. Sorry, I think so.
We will do that on the TV show.
You'll do that on the TV show. I don't think your mic is on. Yeah.
Now it's working.
Yeah. Good.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Any other questions?
Any other question?
If there are
Muy
no
bien,
questions,
muy bien.
we
Gracias.
just say thank you very much to Rob. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we hope to have you back soon
Gracias,
here in
Pedro.
Argentina. Thank you.